Governor Shapiro is set to give his budget address to lawmakers in Harrisburg tomorrow. Parents and educators here in our area and across the state will be paying close attention to see how the governor responds to a court mandate handed down last year that says the way Pennsylvania funds its public schools is unconstitutional.
Action 16 Investigates Stacey Lang has an update to what's become known as the fair funding fight.
Last summer, Pennsylvania's Commonwealth Court put an end to a lawsuit that had dragged on since today's 9th graders were in kindergarten. A group of school districts, including some in our area, sued the state legislature over the way it funds public schools. The court sided with the schools, ordering lawmakers to reform its education funding system. But now it's time to put pen to paper. So what will actually come of the fair funding fight? As one of the plaintiffs for the fair funding lawsuit, the Panther Valley School District in Carbon County has been at the forefront of the fight for more equitable state funding for schools. Superintendent Dave McAndrew's first day on the job in 2020 included a deposition for that lawsuit.
Well, really, when you think about this lawsuit, the students that are in 9th grade right now we're just starting school. So we've had to wait this long just for this lawsuit to come down. And that's why there's a little urgency here with, wanting this funding.
Last summer, Commonwealth Court judges sided with districts like Panther Valley, ruling that the state's system for funding public education is unconstitutional. In response, the legislature formed the Basic Education Funding Commission, a bipartisan group of lawmakers who spent months studying the current system and its faults. Last month, Republicans pitched a plan for reform, and so did Democrats. Voting along party lines, the Democrats' plan ultimately won.
Good news is there were a lot of points of agreement.
Republican Senator Dave Argel was the only member of the commission from our area. He says both parties agreed on the need for better school facilities and fixes to the funding formula that would make state funding more predictable for students. Where parties disagree is on exactly how much more money to add to the education budget. Republicans didn't make a financial commitment in their plan. Democrats suggested adding $200 million more to the budget each year over 7 years. That adds up to $1.4 billion. But even that number is much lower than what education experts believe the school system needs.
Some of the advocates wanted $7 billion right away. That would result in the biggest increase in either the state income tax or the state sales tax in history. And so we just don't think that our constituents sent us to Harrisburg to vote for the biggest tax increase in history.
Still, Senator Argel says as the chair of the Senate Education Committee, he will work toward a bipartisan solution because that's what the court has mandated. Dr. Gene Harris, a professor of political science at the University of Scranton, says not to be fooled by the word mandate. It's not as binding as you might think.
Courts can mandate, but they can't implement, right? And so really it is up to the state legislature and the governor to put this into effect. Clearly, if the mandate is ignored, there will be subsequent court cases. But there is a limit to what courts can do.
Dr. Harris says the current makeup of the legislature makes reform even more of a challenge. If Governor Shapiro asks for a significant increase in education funding, he will likely have to make significant concessions elsewhere to win over Republicans.
Numbers, that's the bottom line. It comes down to the actual numbers. And so that has to be addressed. And that's going to be really hard because the big question is, where does the money come from?
Back at Panther Valley, Superintendent McAndrew says he will be watching the budget process in Harrisburg closely and says he'll be prepared to sue again if Harrisburg doesn't hold up its end of the deal.
Anytime you have to have people negotiate this amount of money, there's always concerns. But I do believe, that they will work bipartisan to achieve, some kind of goal. What that goal is, we're not sure yet. But, we know it needs to be an extent, a very high number.
The current balance of power in Harrisburg presents another challenge. Republicans control the Senate, and which party controls the House depends on the result of a special election in Bucks County that's set for next week. Stacey Lang, Action 16 Investigates.